Hello, my name is Samantha Morton. I'm an actor and a filmmaker, but I'm speaking to you today as a mother and a survivor of childhood neglect, violence, and trauma. I was born in 1977 to working-class parents in Nottingham, England, a city reeling from the collapse of industry and high levels of unemployment. I know I'm not alone in my experiences, so I apologise in advance if any of my story triggers anything for anyone listening. From only a few months old, and through no fault of my own, I was placed into the care of the state, a situation that continued throughout my childhood. My life was either spent in children's homes, with foster families, or in homeless hostels. Throughout all of this was the experience of violence, physical violence, sexual violence, and emotional violence, and all this from the adults who should have been protecting me, and in the places I should have been safe. The inconsistency of the support structures around me and my anger issues with the system meant I fell behind with my education and was excluded from school as a young teenager. When I was small, I understood that the people who harmed me did so because they didn't know any better. I hold no grudges, but from a young age I vowed to channel my experience for good, to make a difference, and that is why I'm here today. I remain certain that if people are given the right support and education, they can make better choices. I have been left with a life sentence of PTSD. I've had to learn to live with the constant re-emergence of childhood trauma. I'm fortunate enough that my job affords me the financial means to seek help and to be able to look after myself and my family. Many of the people I knew growing up have not been so fortunate. Some have died young or are in prison. Some are drug addicts, and most have no education, and therefore are not able to contribute to society in a way that they would have hoped. I was lucky. A teacher at school spotted a talent in me and suggested I join a drama group. The leader of that group gave me the encouragement I needed. He gave me a focus and a determination to survive, to succeed, and to not become another statistic. Drama helped me to channel my experience into something productive and gave me the life I live and I love today. My 13-year-old self could only have dreamed that I would be here today, that I would be speaking to an esteemed audience such as yourselves as a champion for children. When adults hit children, this abuse of power and physical force is so fundamentally wrong. Right now, there are 1 billion children facing those same battles I faced, living their days in fear, spending their nights in the hope of making it through to the morning. No issue means more to me than ending all violence against children. It is impossible for me to imagine any other issue that it so viscerally affects our most vulnerable and most promising citizens, yet generates so little public outrage and such limited political traction. It seems only when a fatality happens, when a child dies at the hands of their abuser, that public and political opinion swell, only to die down a short time later once the dust settles and with no real change. In my lifetime, I want to see children afforded the same legal protection from assault as adults. I want to see England follow in the footsteps of the 67 countries worldwide, including our neighbouring nations, Scotland and Wales, to make it illegal to physically discipline a child. The status quo is utterly unacceptable. Parenting support can have powerful, lifelong impacts on children's development, and therefore the development of societies. But it is rarely prioritised in national budgets and policies. If we are to end violence against children, we need to educate parents and caregivers. The stresses of poverty, such as those suffered by the adults in my childhood and their parents before them, can and often do lead to violence. We need drastic and urgent action to stop the culture of violence against children and break this cycle. In the words of the iconic Maya Angelou, herself a survivor of extreme violence and adversity in childhood, do the best you can until you know better. And then when you know better, do better. 1 billion children affected. 1 billion futures hanging in the balance. Almost half the children on the planet, and that means half the children on the school bus, half the children in the nursery, half the children in the classroom are subject to this entirely preventable issue. We can and we must prevent violence against children. The consequences of not doing so are infinitely harder than the challenges of tackling this issue head on. Every one of us speaking at this event and listening online knows this fact. Most of us are already working on fixing the problem. So, we need to change the conversation. We need to not only talk to people that are interested in the issue, but those who are influential in positioning it as the policy priority it deserves to be. Now is the time, for the very first time, to bring all governments of the world together for a direct and deliberate dialogue on ending violence against children. Believe me, I understand how hard it is to talk about this, but we have to, and we must place survivors at the centre of the movement. We have to raise the alarm and the expectation of greater government action at the same time as normalising the conversation in our communities. Close your eyes. Take yourself back to being 5 years old. Now imagine a grown-up hitting you with full force and how that would feel. Terrifying. The pain, the bruising can last for weeks. The scars can last a lifetime. Now, if you feel the way that I do, that this is fundamentally wrong, join me in speaking up to those in power, and together, let's put an end to violence against children. Thank you for listening to my story. And let's continue to listen and to talk to children, to survivors, and to each other. Be assured, I will continue to support the World Health Organization and the broader movement to end violence against children.